Hey, you guys. Well, welcome to another broadcast. And so glad that you guys are here. And let's go ahead and let's hit it. I said, let's hit it. I don't know what's going on, but let's hit it. What's going on here? We had it all lined up. Here we go. I don't know what happened there, but let's hit it. There we go. All right, that's more like it. Well, welcome again to another broadcast. So glad that you guys are here. It is Friday, November the 21st, 2025. So glad that you guys can make it here. Friday night, a good way to end the week. I know out here in Arizona, it has been on the rainy side. And and it's been chilly for us. And chilly for us is in the 60s. Ooh, brr, we're cold out here. But it's actually been pretty good out here. You know, it's just what a relief, you know, when you are dealing with the kind of heat that we deal with out here in sunny Arizona. How are you doing though? How's your week? I hope it's been well. Most importantly, have you been doing those breathing exercises we've been talking about here? Or are you just standing in the corner, just kind of like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe I'll just keep scrolling and maybe it'll come back again. I hope you're doing it, because I'm gonna tell you right now, it will change your life. And so I hope you're engaged in that. And please make it a part of your life. Okay, don't those breathing exercises. Just look them up on here on YouTube. There's a whole lot of them out here. Different varieties of breathing exercises and all of that. But we definitely need that in our lives, though. Getting rid of that stress and anxiety and getting your mind focused. Man, we need a lot more of that. For real. But anyway, tonight we're going to talk about a couple of things here. Well, you know, if you've been on social media, you heard about there's a lot of people out here that are spreading a lot of fear, you know. They, you know, with this whole big, beautiful bill thing and the impact it's having on certain people with certain degrees. And a lot of that kind of is all focused on mostly black women who are in the medical field. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a closer look at that. And we're going to look at the reality of it and what the fallout really is going to be. But also, not only that, we want to look at solutions, because unlike many people, I choose to believe that this is an opportunity for us as Black Americans to get things together, to get our house in order. And I'm not going to waste any time just sitting back and complaining and whining and all of this other stuff. I'm going to put my head to the plow and we're going to build something. I think this is an opportunity, but we're going to look into that. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the one group of people that many Black Americans are actually afraid of. And what we're going to do is we're going to take yet another jaunt through history, and we're going to look at where this all started. Okay? And we got a lot of mouth for one group of people, but there's another group of people that you see every day that people pull their punches on the regular. So that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to give it another 30 seconds to get people to get in here, and then we're going to get started. Okay? Well, again, welcome. All right, let's go ahead and get things started. Again, thank you and welcome to another broadcast here. And just trying to pull something else up here for y'all real quick here. Let me see, where did I tuck that thing? Where would I put that? Let me see. I think I know where I'll put it. Hold on. There we go. Here we go. There it is. Okay. All right. Here we go. Anyway, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and get started. And before we get started here, I definitely want to bring your attention to something that we put together some time ago over at Sombatry.com, which, by the way, again, we are still running our up to 30% off promo that's going on right now. So make sure you're taking full advantage of it. There's a product that we've had on Sombatry for some time. It's been there, it's still there, but we haven't promoted it in a minute. But I think this is a great time to do just that. And it's our immune shield. It's our immune shield. And this is it right here on the screen here. And the immunity shield that we have, this is definitely something, if you are really serious about the, keeping the health and wellness of your family up, up on code, whatever you want to call it. You definitely want to make sure you check this out here, because when you combine it with the promo that we're having right now, you're going to save a ton. I'm just going to pull it up on the screen here right now so you can get to see what's actually in it. Okay, so let me just show you very quickly here what's in it. Not that one, it's the other one. It's right here. Here we go. So this is the immunity shield here. This is what's everything that's in it. You get a 16 ounce of moringa powder, 16 ounce of digestive bitters. You get your 8 ounce bottle of black seed oil. You get your 14 to 16 ounce thing of tamarind. You get 30 count of baobab chews, dried sea moss. That's 3 ounces. That makes 3 pounds of gel. Sorry about that. You get 45 grams of mullein leaf tea. You get sour sop leaves. That's 6x9 pouch, makes 30 cups of tea. You get turmeric powder. That's 5 ounces. You also get a complimentary copper bracelet. And then let's see what else we got on here. Oh yeah, the other thing I want to mention, which is important, is 7 to 10 days for processing time. Okay, that's a lot of stuff there, but trust me, this is something that you definitely you want to have. If you're trying to get the whole family tightened up, you definitely want to check this out here. And it's got all of that stuff in there. And so we haven't talked about it in a minute, but if you're interested in it, this is a great time to get it, because again, like I said, you save quite a bit with the 30% off. So make sure you check that out again over at Sombatry.com, along with all the other stuff that we have. Okay. All right. So just wanted to drop that in your ear, and let's go ahead and get into what we're going to be talking about. So tonight, like I said, again, we're going to be talking about 2 topics. First topic, we're going to get into the details with this whole thing with the nurses and all of that stuff, and this big, beautiful bill and the impact and all of that stuff. We're going to talk about that first. Then we're going to take a break. After we take a break, then we're going to get into the other topic, which is really dealing with who are Black people really afraid of. We love to get on social media and we love to beat our chests and say that we are the ultimate warriors and nobody at all can stand in our way and all of this other stuff, right? But there is one group of people that Black people are very much afraid of, and it's documented and we see it all the time. Many Black folks will pull their punches when they're addressing these people. And what we're going to do is actually take a look at history and show you where a lot of that actually began. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. So what I want to get into is this right here, and let's go ahead and let me get my notes up here together, and let's go ahead and begin here. Let's see. All right, here we go. All right, so let's go through this bill thing real quick here. Okay, so as you know, the big beautiful bill, it made a lot of radical changes for a lot of things, and we're seeing it happen right now in all kinds of areas. But we're specifically seeing this happen in this area here that we're talking about. There's a list of professions that are going to be impacted. And when I looked at these professions, I wanted to find out, okay, how much are we impacted? First of all, what group is impacted the most about these professions that are going to be reclassified? And at the top of the list, Black folks. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so it's nursing, the social work, public health, counseling and therapy, teaching and education master degrees, occupational and physical therapy, and speech pathology and audiology. And so what's basically happening is in the past, what's happened is if you were going to specialize in those areas, you could borrow as much as you needed to in order to cover your school costs. And then you just pay it back over time, because it was through the federal loan system, right? And then you can also qualify for loan forgiveness, or, based on your income, they would, structure it where based on your income, you could pay it back that way as well. I guess they'll stretch it out longer or whatever, right? So that's how it was before. Okay. So as you can imagine, this really made it very easy for a lot of people who just didn't have it. They wanted to get into these fields, but they didn't have the means, because as you know, getting into anything medical these days, I mean, when you go into these medical schools or whatever, it's very, very, very expensive. It really is. And so the federal loan system actually made it easier for a lot of folks, particularly us as Black folks and Latinos as well. Okay, so now after the changes, what took place is that some degrees are now labeled as professional degrees. Some of them are, right? Others are labeled non-professional graduate degrees, and now they have different borrowing limits. Okay, different borrowing limits for the professional degrees, and those are the law or medicine. That's like law, like the JD, or medicine, which would be your medical doctor degree, your DO, your DDS. The annual limit, I'm not expecting y'all to remember all of these numbers. I'm just putting this out here. So if you're like, oh, what did he say? You can always come back. You got your reference. So the annual limit for those people is $50,000 a year. All right. And then the lifetime limit is $200,000. Okay. Now, for non-professional graduate degrees, now this is where that reclassification thing took place. That's who's going to fall under that, or nursing, social work, education, public health, therapy, counseling, speech pathology, etc. The annual limit for them is $20,500 per year. All right. And then the lifetime limit is $100,000. All right. And they said before you could borrow whatever the program would cost. But now you can't borrow past those limits. So what's happening is basically skewing towards the medical doctors, and it's also skewing towards the lawyers. Those are the people who are, you could say, they're in the safe zone. All right. That's what's happening right now. Okay. Let's see. So who gets hurt the most? It's students in health fields like nursing, therapy, and public health, education and social work, counseling, and mental health, because those degrees are expensive but don't lead to super high salaries. Okay, it especially impacts what groups? Black and Latinos, first generation students, working adults, and single parents who can't pay cash up front. Okay, so those are the people, unfortunately, that are going to be impacted by this the most. Now, and so here's an example here for you. So you have a nurse wanting to earn her doctors of nursing practice, which is your DNP. All right, the program costs $120,000 a year. All right. Now, before you could borrow the full $120,000 because you're going through federal loans, but now you can only borrow up to $100,000, and then what's left over, which is the 25, you have to come up with that either by your savings, or you get a personal loan or something, or get a third job, second job, or whatever in order to pay that. And so that is the point that is stressing a lot of people on that. You know what I mean? So there are loans that are still available. You're just more limited to what you can borrow. Okay. But even that 20,000 is still going to impact a lot of people, because a lot of people just don't walk around with that kind of money. And so anyway, so that's really the gist of what's going on. So as you know, like I said, again, a lot of people are going to be impacted by this. And then, like I said, when you look at on the grand scale on who is being impacted by this the most, it is in fact going to be Black Americans. Black Americans are going to be impacted by this whole situation, the most. Okay. So we can sit back and basically say, hey, as Black folks, here's another strike against us. Oh boy. We're screwed once again. We are screwed once again. See, this is what the government does to us. They just hate us so much, and they want to shut us down, and they want to, do this and that or whatever. So we're going to get into some solutions first. But the first thing I want to do is I do want to set the table correct here. All right. I want to set the table correct here. Let me see what our sister's saying. She said this will definitely stop overborrowing. No more refund checks from the government for sure. But let's set the table straight here. Yes, that is all true as far as the impact that's going to have on a number of Black folks who are in those fields. But I would submit to you that I'm not about maintaining the status quo. Okay, I'm not about maintaining the status quo because, like I said on this platform many times, I don't have a short memory when it comes down to what happened a few years ago. Okay. And when I say a few years ago, we're talking about the grand experiment that took place. Because the truth of the matter is that many, not all, but there are many of these folks who saw what was happening. You knew what was going on, but unfortunately you went along with it because simply you were told to go with it. And as a result of right now, today, there are many people who are in fact have either died or close to dying, or their life has been, for the rest of their lives, have been eternally altered because of something that you decided to go along with and pass on. That must stop. That has to stop. And if something like this can kind of help that, so be it. And I'm going to explain in a minute here, okay? Because what Black Americans need when it comes to health and wellness care is that we need a reset. I mean, let's just keep it a buck. We need a full reset. I'm done with complaining. I'm done with begging for, maybe we can get another Black president in there and he can come up with something called Obamacare. Actually, we had that. Lord, they're getting ready to take Obamacare away from us. What are we going to do now? Oh my God. Aren't you tired of that? Aren't you tired of begging for basic care? Aren't you tired of that? Well, it's because a mindset has to be changed. It has to be renewed, right? Now, for as far as nurses and doctors and stuff like that, do we still need them? Absolutely. We still do. So I'm not saying that we got to get rid of everybody. But what I am saying is this, is that there has to be some type of shakeup that must take place so that we're not going to have that again. And so tonight, what we're going to look at is what are some solutions? What can we do now that this is going to make it more difficult for particularly Black folks to get into, like nursing and some of these other fields like that? What can we do in this moment? And I submit to you that this is actually an opportunity for us to build our own stuff. I'm not suggesting that it's going to be easy, and nor am I saying that it's going to be overnight. I'm not suggesting any of that. But what I do want to do is to put at least some solutions on the table. And my hope is that maybe not you, but there's somebody's out there that can pick up a piece here and there and run with it. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. One of the things I looked at is, I remember years ago, there was a huge rush. It was so interesting to me. I was like wondering, I said, man, in the hospitals, why do you see so many Filipino nurses in here? I mean, they just in there, and without getting into too many details, I mean, there's a whole history of that, and it goes all the way back to like World War II or something like that, right? And there was a lot of missionaries and stuff that went over there and all of that, and so somehow they got into nursing and all of that, and so you had a whole flood of Filipino women who came over as nurses to this country, a whole flood of them. Now, I don't know if the demographics are still high with them or not, but I think it is. I think it still is. But at one time, it was peak. It was high. And so I decided to look a little bit more into that because I was just really wondering. I was like, how did they, because on this list that I was looking for, I was like, what are they doing? You know, what are they doing? How did they get to, you know, where they are right now? You know, how did they get to, you know, where, because they're not even showing up on this list. And so I looked it up, and here's what the Filipinos did. Okay. So we're going to look at what the Filipinos did first, and then we're going to look at what we can do. All right. So we're going to look at that. All right. So here's what the Filipinos did. All right. They said many Filipino nurses do not train in the U.S. They train in the Philippines. Okay. They said this is the single biggest factor. They said the Philippines has built a massive decades-old nursing education infrastructure specifically designed to train nurses cheaply, train them in English, prepare them for U.S. licensure exams, and to facilitate overseas migration. So this is what the Filipinos did. So they said, so instead of paying the $40,000 to $150,000 for a U.S. degree, they said, on license and all of that stuff, they said many Filipino nurses pay a few $1,000s total for nursing school in the Philippines. So in the Philippines, they built their own training infrastructure. They trained them on all this stuff. They from the ground up, they said, we building our own infrastructure so that when they set foot on U.S. soil, they are already set, ready to go. That's what the Philippines did. The Filipino people did. All right. Let's see. Number two, they said Filipino nurses migration is employer sponsored. They said hospital staffing agencies and long-term care facilities often pay for exam prep, licensing fees, visa costs, relocation, sometimes even temporary housing. This further reduces dependence on federal loans. All right. And then on the flip, when you look at Black Americans and Latinos, they said that we didn't receive the employer sponsored benefits because they are domestic students entering before they are employed and paying U.S. tuition up front. Okay. The Philippines to U.S. nursing pathway is extremely mature. So they've been doing this for a long time. The Philippines has exported nurses for over 50 years. So they're 50 years deep in this, at least 50 years. Nursing programs are structured around U.S. standards. English is part of the curriculum. U.S. hospitals actively recruit there. So they got people in the Philippines, the U.S. does, that actively recruit to bring these people over. The diaspora already has strong professional networks in the U.S. So when these people came over, like most Asians, people and other groups, when they come over, they don't just come over and they're just on their own. They come over and they immediately develop strong networks. Okay. You know, you got like Chinatown and you got, you know, Koreatown and you got some of these other parts of town and all of that. They develop networks. I know here in Arizona, for example, you have Mesa. My goodness, Mesa is, I think they said, is one of the largest Asian communities in the United States. It's pretty huge, and we go there a lot, actually. And they don't just have restaurants and all that. These people are networking and all that. It's amazing just to sit back and watch this. And so, so the nurses, they develop their own networks and all that. And yeah, I'm that guy that when I go to those international markets, you know how as you're leaving, they have like those little pamphlets, they little international, their little newspapers Sometimes it be in their own language and all that. Yep, I pick those things up because I'm always learning. I'm like, okay, let me see how they doing this thing. Okay, I'm always doing it, and I would encourage you to do the same thing too. Seriously. So it's just you learning how people do things, you know? Let's see. They said U.S. born Black and Latino students tend to come from communities with lower intergenerational wealth, higher reliance on loans, less ability to pay tuition out of pocket, fewer family funded pathways into healthcare. Filipino nurses, in contrast, often come through international programs costing far less, family support structures centered around remittance, and a cultural pattern that prepares workers to migrate and to send money home. All right. So there's a whole network. There's a lot of other things I could cover on that too. All right. So that's what the Filipino people have done. All right. So what we want to do is let's learn from that. What can we do? What are some things we can do to learn from that and then not do everything that they did, but we can learn something from that and combine it with the structures that are already existing here in the United States, already existing here within what we call the Black community. What are some things that we need to fix so that it can work hand in hand with these new ideas that I just gave you? Well, not necessarily new, but bridging that together so that we're building something that is going to be stable and is going to address the real needs of many of our people. And I forgot to mention too, we're still at Sabbatry, we're still getting emails from people who are suffering as a result of that jab. We're still getting we get emails from that quite often from people. So the people, the systems that played part in that, we cannot repeat that. See, I'm not interested in doing, okay, Mr. Charlie did it, so let's do our own version of Mr. Charlie. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to see that. I'm not trying to copy what Mr. Charlie's doing. It's one of the entrapments that many of our people do. We want to copy and duplicate what other people are doing. I talk about it all the time. We want to duplicate what Jewish people are doing. We want to talk like them. We want to worship like them. We want to dress like them and all of that. White people, we can say what we want, but we want to dress like them. We want to talk like them and all of that. And we will whole time talk about we got our own culture. And that we do, but at the same time, we're looking both ways. Doesn't the Bible say a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways? I told you there's truth in the Bible. There is. That's a truth. But we got to stop being double-minded and start being single-minded and begin to build our own stuff without having to copy by the letter what everybody else is doing, right? You understand? We can learn some things, but we can also do our own thing too. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so let's take a look here. Let's see. All right, so the first thing here is, okay, so they said, since the federal loan system is tightening, the most powerful move is to decrease reliance on it. Well, that's obvious, right? Here's some concrete actions. Create low-cost, high-quality certificate programs in fields like mental health, coaching, public health, education, community wellness, nutrition, etc. We can create our own programs. And the way you do that is very simple. Let's say, for example, Sabbatry said, we want to train people in some of these fields that I just mentioned here. Let's just say, okay, what you do is I have to get with the license boards and all of that and say, okay, what is the standard? This is what I want to do. At Sabbatry, this is what we want to do. We want to train people in these areas, you know, like mental health and public health education and community wellness, for example. Let's just say. What you have to do is you got to get with, okay, what is the standard? Get with the people who have the standard, right? And find out, okay, what is the standard? What do I need to do in order to get to that point? There's going to be a lot of steps. And yes, it's going to involve some investment too. But you can do that. And there are many people who are doing that. Okay. So by doing that, you create your own standards. And as we're talking tonight, you're going to notice we're also going to bring in the HBCUs and how they can get involved, and churches. We're going to talk about that too, and how these infrastructures that are already there, how if they were to all work together, we can build something awesome. All right. So that's what we're going to talk about. So anyway, let's see. Develop apprenticeship-based pathways. For example, like black barbershops. Black barbershops have apprentice-based programs. You come in and, you first learn, you're looking over the shoulder of the barber and all that, and they're just kind of, helping you along and all that. And eventually it's just a pipeline to get your own chair, so forth and so on. Well, that's a very simple example, but you can follow the path, the same kind of, model that they have, right? Peer wellness coaches. You can develop apprenticeship programs for peer wellness coaches, herbalism, behavior health technician roles, education professionals. What we can also do is partner with Black-owned health practices to create paid clinical placements rather than unpaid ones that force people into debt. So for the Black healthcare professionals practices that are already existing, we can further develop, and I'm not suggesting or saying that none of them are doing this, because there are many who already are doing this. I'm saying we can double up on this because in light of what's happening now, right? So, you develop these healthcare practices, or encourage these healthcare practices to begin to reach out to, some of these other students that are coming in, and giving them the apprenticeship and the time that they need, so that it's not just free service. Like, that they're not looking at these students as, okay, you just come in, you just better be thankful you just getting the experience, because that's no. We got to get away from that. These students need to be paid for what they do. You understand what I'm saying? And that's one thing for someone that's been around as long as I've been. I can't tell you the amount of times I have seen in the business world numbers of Black entrepreneurs who will look at Black students just like this, Black people who want to get in and want to learn these things. Instead of bringing them in, you're giving them the education, but you also need to pay these people too. Okay, they're not just slaves. Okay, I've seen this play out many times. So bringing them in, yes, they're getting that experience, but you also need to pay them too. Okay, that needs to happen. So again, everything I'm talking about, these are mind shifts. It's not going to happen overnight, but these are things, this is a pathway for us to come out, not just swinging, but building, right? And they said this builds an internal self-funded talent pipeline. Let's get to the next one. Leverage community colleges and state universities as the new HBCU model. The new caps hurt private, not public, but private graduate programs the most. So the public ones are fine. Okay. But, we can start leveraging some of our stuff with HBCUs. And how do you do this? You maximize community college, state university job pipelines. Avoid private schools with inflated tuition. Use employer tuition reimbursement as the main graduate school funding source. All right. And they say this lowers debt without giving up the degree. All right. And then here's another one. Build Black-owned clinical training centers. One of the biggest reasons Black students need huge loans is because health and education degrees require clinical hours, which are unpaid. And we were just talking about that, time insensitive, controlled by hospitals and schools that don't prioritize Black trainees. Self-sufficient solution is what? Create Black-owned therapy clinics, home health agencies, rehab centers, early childhood centers, community health labs, telehealth networks. The telehealth networks, I like that one too, because I was going through this earlier. These can offer paid clinical hours, not unpaid. That's a huge thing. And I'm just going to reiterate it one time. Listen, if you are a Black entrepreneur, rather if you're in the health field or you're in something else, if a student comes up to you, a Black college student comes up to you, or a high school student comes up to you and says, hey, I would like to learn how you do your thing. How do you do this? Of course, you're not going to just tell them, okay, here's all my books, just go through it. No, they're going to, hey, I can, after you check them out, if they seem like they're legit, okay, you can come on board. I'm going to pay you, but you're going to have to work. And that's how you're going to learn. You understand what I'm saying? You ain't paying them millions of dollars, of course, but you're paying them something. Don't treat these students like slaves, okay? They're not slaves, okay? Because one day they're going to grow up and take care of your behind, okay? All right, so anyway, and they're going to remember with that $3.35 an hour you were giving them. How about, I'm dating myself. I remember that was that was minimum wage. Anyway, shift into adjacent careers with lower barriers. Not every needed role requires a master's degree. Here's some examples here of high value but low barrier careers. All right. Just go through the list right here. Fitness trainer, breath work coach. Maybe I'll do that. Anyway, lactation consultant, herbal consultant, health educator, peer support specialist, behavioral health technician, community nutrition educator, occupational therapy assistant, physical therapy assistant, SLP assistant, teaching assistant, or paraprofessional. And these jobs are growing fast. They're growing. They're definitely growing. That breathing thing, if y'all keep sleeping, I may do that. I may offer breathing classes here for real in a minute. You may see me out here in a minute. I'm laughing because I'm like, I got a master plan, thinking of a master plan. Anyway, they said these require short programs or certifications, not expensive grad school. Let me tell you something. The health and wellness field is going to continue to boom. It's not going anywhere. Why? Because people always get sick. So if you are someone that's listening to me and you're looking into getting into some type of field, I would really encourage you to look in the health and wellness field because people are always going to need it. We always need tune-ups. It's like being a auto mechanic. Cars are always going to fail, aren't they? You're always going to need an auto mechanic. I mean, I know these Elon Musk robots are waiting in the wings to take over, but in the meantime, you're going to need some physical hands on physical cars, right? And so health and wellness is something that I think even if you're not doing it, you should be investing in it in somehow, some form, or some fashion, for real. Because it's something that is going to always be needed. And in the age of post-COVID, or COVID, I should say, you're going to see more and more things happen. You are. All right. So here's the my favorite section here. Build more Black-owned telehealth and counseling systems. The demand for Black therapists and counselors is exploding, but the degree cost is now prohibitive. Self-sufficient approach. What can we do with that? Build teletherapy cooperatives. Build cooperatives for peer-to-peer wellness coaching. Use bachelor-level mental health roles as entry points. Offer sliding scale, culturally sensitive mental health support. This reduces reliance on white licensed gatekeeper institutions. All right. And if someone wants a printout of this, I mean, I can put it on the community page or whatever if it'll fit all of this, because I'm very serious about this. Grow Black entrepreneurship in health and wellness. Examples would be holistic wellness companies, herbal medicine brands, health coaching, nutrition planning, teaching people how to get their right nutrition, mental wellness education, fitness and lifestyle brands, community-centered preventative health programs. And, this kind of stuff, of course, is going to create more jobs, income, autonomy, alternative to debt-heavy degrees. Let's see what else. I'll just skip down to this one here because there's plenty more I can go through here. They were talking about creating Black micro schools, homeschool co-ops with shared teaching, Afrocentric curriculums, or Black American or whatever, centered curriculums. We got our brother there with, what's it called, man? Coco Classroom. Coco Classroom. We mentioned him. We did a video on that brother and his wife, just recently. Coco Classroom. He developed a whole homeschool system. Folks, listen to what I'm trying to tell you. The technology that we have out there right now that we have access to, do you understand that we can build our own schools? That's why I just sat back and just in wonderment. I said, all of these people who are doing all of these videos on Umar Johnson and that whole episode of him raising up money and doing all this stuff, and then the school ain't quite built, then it gets built a little bit and all this other stuff. And people are racking up views by the thousands on that whole episode. Meanwhile, right now, we can build our own curriculums. We can build our own curriculums right now. We can do that. We're actually, one of the things we're looking into that here at Samba Tree. There was something that along those lines, what we're looking into doing is building a curriculum center, if you will, not physical, of course, but a curriculum center that specializes in teaching our children about natural health and wellness. That's something that we're seriously looking into now and seeing how we can do that. So that if you are a parent and you're homeschooling your children, and let's say you want a side curriculum in teaching children everything from gardening, everything from different herbs and what those herbs do and all of that kind of stuff, you can do that. We can do that right now. And I'm not just talking about this. So by the time our children graduate from high school, by the time they graduate, they already have the knowledge, the skill set to be able to walk right in and get these degrees that I'm talking about right now. And they're already ahead of the game. You're already ahead of the game. You ain't just sitting in the class. Well, they ain't really teaching us nothing because, Trump, he ain't sending no money down here and we suffering down. No. We're in 2025, honey. We don't talk like that no more. We don't move like that anymore. We got tools right now where your children, by the time they get out of high school, they can already be ready for pre-med. Already. The tools are already out here. And so this is the whole point of this part of the video, is for us to not look at this as some kind of big setback for Black folks, because it really isn't. If anything, I see it as a set up for something that we can build for greatness to help our people get well. We can do that. And let me get to this last point here. It was, let's see, the most important, build independent Black institutions again. Black-owned health networks, Black teacher academics, Black therapy training centers, Black herbalist guilds, Black wellness associations, Black entrepreneur cooperatives. This reclassification of degrees will do what American often does. It pushes Black people out of mainstream opportunity lanes. But Black America has always responded the same way. We build our own lanes. We build institutions that don't depend on federal permission. We create autonomous systems of healing, teaching, and building. Okay? So yes, can we do this? Can you do this? Yes. And let me just say this. I am not, as much as I love Black folks, what we are doing, like say, for example, at Samba Tree, we are focused on Black folks, right? But anybody that comes through that door, we're going to help. You understand what I'm saying? But we're coming from a perspective or a vantage point that's rooted in history of how our people were treated, right? So we take that experience and say, okay, when we get ours, which we now have, we're going to make sure we do it correct, trying to do our best to correct those things, right? So whoever comes through that door, and we got customers of all colors of the rainbow that comes through that door, we're going to treat them like we want to be treated. You understand what I'm saying? And that is the vantage point. That's where we come from on that, right? But as we network with other partners or whatever that's out there, suppliers or whatever, even though I want to, it's nice. It would be nice to sit back and say, all of our suppliers are 100% black. That's all we deal with. Listen, that doesn't always work out that way. What we prioritize for our customers is quality. And sometimes we get good quality from black folks. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we get good quality from white folks. Sometimes we don't. We don't care. That our first qualifier isn't looking at your skin, is looking at the quality of your product. And then after we look at it, we read about it. Okay, that's cool. Send us a sample. We're going to try it in our house, and we're going to sit down at the table and we're going to see, okay, is this something that we're going to use? Is this something we think we can sell or whatever? You think this is cool? You had all right. You had any reactions to it or anything like that? Okay, cool. Let's put it out there and let's see what the people think. You understand what I'm saying? That is how that's the perspective we take. So I'm not looking at that, but people know, black folks know, hey, if I go there, they got me in mind. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's how we got to duplicate that on all these different areas, because there's other people out there too that are doing what we're doing. You understand what I'm saying? And we want to promote those people as well. And that's the mindset that we have to have. So this is why we, on this platform, we stay encouraging people. Listen, you are your primary physician. We're always going to say that over and over again. And then what I would add to this, what I was just saying, is that there's got to be some type of standards, if you will, that's built in, so that the next time the government comes in and says, hey, listen, we got some shots and we want to make sure that y'all in line. It's okay. Roll up those sleeves. Let's get it in the arms. Don't ask questions, because if you ask questions, that means you're holding up the progress. Come on, you can get your shot. Come on. We have a strong voice that's out here on one accord that can stand in line and say, nope, we're going to send those shots to our personal labs and we're going to analyze it. And we're going to hold it up against our standards. And if it doesn't meet our personal standards, then it's not going to our people. Do you understand what I'm saying? We can do this. But the question is, how many people are willing to do that? If a pharmaceutical company comes to you and say, hey, listen, bud, psst, come here. Hey, kid, come here. Okay, we got these shots here. Now, for every shot you are able to convince black folks to take, we're going to give you $1,000. I hate to tell y'all, but I told you I always try to keep it 100 here. We got far too many people that look like us that will take the money and will push some of the most poisonous things on our people. So even if we go and shift to a model where we're self-sufficient and we're doing our own thing, like I was just talking about just now, there's far too many people who would take the bait. They will take the money. So what I'm saying is that's why you have to have some type of what you call standards, if you will, that's set up, that's established, where does that start from? People that have good character, people that can't be bought, where there is where you can look at these individuals on this committee or whatever, and you can see they got a long history where nobody was able to buy them. You understand what I'm saying? You ain't picking people to be on this committee because they're part of this fraternity or sorority, or they go to this church or that church, or they're part of it. No. We're looking at individuals who have a long history of having solid character, and they can never be bought. That's how you build something like this that I'm talking about here. So is it easy, as I just said to you? No, it's not. Is it something that's going to happen overnight or could happen overnight? No. But it all starts, like the old saying goes, 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step. So all of this that I gave you on this particular topic, I'm not expecting all you to take all of this and all of a sudden putting it into practice and then, all this is going to happen overnight. No, of course not. but it does start with you. What you can walk away with is this: a greater determination that you are going to be the sole person that's where both of your butt cheeks are sitting in the control seat of your health and wellness. You're not sharing it with other people. It's you. Just you in that control seat. And if you got a spouse or you got a loved one, they could be sitting right next to you, but you prioritize your health. You prioritize your wellness. You understand? And work out a plan. If you're on a lot of these pharmaceuticals and stuff like that, go see a naturopathic doctor and develop a plan on how you can get weaned off of that stuff. Because that stuff, I'm telling you right now, it is designed to keep you addicted to it. All of these people who are drug addicts aren't just standing on the street corner. There are many drug addicts that are living in nice communities right now. They're living in nice homes. They go to school. They go to work every day. But the doctors always tell them, okay, take this pill. Oh, your pressure went up a little bit. Okay, you better pop this pill. Oh, you got a headache. You better take these aspirin. Oh, you feeling this? Okay, you better take this. That has to break. That has to break. All right. And so here on this platform, we're committed to that and helping people to steer away from just leaning into that, to start thinking independently, and let's build our own solutions. Okay. So yes, I just wanted to share that because I immediately saw that and I was like, okay, let's look at it from another angle. Let's look at it from an opportunity angle, and let's do that. And we're doing it. We're doing it here on this platform. So anyway, so what we're going to do now is, I'm checking my time now. Let's take a short break. And then when we come back, let's talk about the other topic that I was talking about. Who's the one people that Black folks are actually afraid of? Believe it or not, there is a group of people that Black folks are actually afraid of. Let's find out. We'll get into it in a moment, and we'll talk about it. So let's give it a short break. Again, thank you for tuning in. All right, we're getting ready to get back. We're going to start here, and just give me another moment or two here, and we're going to get back into it, okay? All right, we're back. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate that. Remember, over on our Somber Tree YouTube page, not the Samba Tree homepage, but on the Samba Tree YouTube page. We are putting up music. This weekend I'm gonna have some more music that I'm uploading there, and it's just music that you can play around. You can just play as you're doing work, or you're just kind of chilling, relaxing around the house and all that. You've seen channels like that do that all the time. Well, we're doing that too. We say, why not? Let's put some music out there as well. So yeah, so we have that as well. You know, I'm a 70s guy, so my vibe is gonna kind of be 70s instrumental. I'll have some vocals there too, but also too, I like rain sounds, I like ocean sounds, I like snow sounds. So I'm wondering, this time of the year, we did the rain sounds already, but I might do one with some snow sounds. Can you imagine? It's this time of the year, and then you got this view looking out the window, and you just see the snow coming down. Let's say, you know, for someone like me, partially, I grew up in North Philadelphia, looking outside the window, looking over my radiator, and we got those big old oak trees out on our street. You know, we were in a row home and seeing all that snow coming down just gently. So nice. And so anyway, so yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to recreate that, and just very slow, very easy, you know, and getting our minds right, you know. So be on the lookout for that. That will be over on our Samba Tree YouTube page. I'll have that up this weekend. And yes, we're going to continue the brain series. We're going to get to that. Yeah, I wish if y'all could see this room. I got stuff all over the place still. We're still getting reset up. The other house is almost cleared out, you know, I'm still moving some stuff and all of that. But I tell you, this has been a great move for us because, you know, in the past, you just had to rush and get everything done in one. But I just didn't feel like doing that. And so, yeah, this has been a wonderful move. So anyway, all right, we're back. Thank you again, and appreciate it. So let's talk about this topic here. Now, who's the one group that Black folks are afraid of actually fully confronting? Well, if you've been following this platform, I think you pretty much have an idea of exactly who I'm talking about. If you saw the video that I did recently, you know, looking at the doctors and these particular doctors and the type of experimentation that they were doing on us, like I said, again, that's only just scratching the surface. And but it doesn't stop there. Now, when you sit back and you listen to a lot of Black folks online, social media, name the platform, Black people we don't really hold back when it comes to calling out white people, calling out white supremacy. You know, you have many channels that, you know, that's their specialty. You got many personalities, that's their specialty, in calling out and breaking down white supremacy and talking about all the details of it. You got people like Tariq Nasheed, of course. You got Professor Black Truth and Black Authority, and, you know, and there are many others out there that will spend great deals of time telling you and breaking down white supremacy. Now, have white people done some awful things to Black people? Yes, absolutely. But I would submit to you that they are ignoring the elephant in the room. And that elephant in the room is the Jewish community. Okay? And when you go back and you look at the history, yes, Jews did help us during the civil rights era. But I'm going to put a big asterisk by that, because Jews were also involved in a lot of other things that they don't particularly talk about as well, but it is documented and factually very true. All right. We went back into slavery, of course. We've done an extensive video talking about looking at the banks. We've looked at the banking structure in the Confederate South, largely was set up by Jewish people. We talked about the banks. There were stores. We're going to talk about those stores in a moment. When many Black folks were going out after the, you know, Civil War and all of that, and Black people had acquired a lot of land during that time because a lot of that land had been given up, right? And in order to take care of your land, you need equipment. And in order to get equipment, you got to go to the people who have the equipment. Well, if you go to the people who have the equipment, you need money. So what did most people do? They went to the banks. And the banks, they had their own policies. A lot of times they would turn us away simply because of the color of our skin. Who was on the other side of those windows? Yes, they had white skin, but in many cases, they were Jewish people. Not all, but in many cases. They don't want to mention that. But it's very true. In fact, like I said, big shout out again to the Nation of Islam and the books that they came out with, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. If you do not have a copy, I would encourage you to get it, because they go into their records and they show all of this. I'm talking about their records, meaning they go through the whole series is them looking at Jewish records and showing what these people were doing during that time. They put that out. And that's why they're so angry with that whole series. But I would encourage, that needs to be standard reading in every house. If you have a if you're homeschooling your black children, they need to have that in their house. But let me give you some things here. And we're talking about stores, for example. My parents, actually, they grew up in Jim Crow South. And I remember her telling me about some of the stores that they used to go to. And of course, some of you may be listening to me now, you may have gone through that. And there were stores that they wouldn't allow you to go into or you couldn't sit at the lunch counter. And for those of you who are in the younger class of people, department stores were nice enough back then. They used to actually have nice little cafeterias in there. Nice little cafeterias in there. You would go in and sit down, and lunch counter, you go in there and get yourself a hamburger, a hot dog, or fries, and a pop, or soda, or milkshake, or whatever. And there was a little nice thing. It was kind of a break from shopping and all of that. It was really nice. And so they used to have that back then. Well, obviously today they don't really have that. You don't really see that too often now, but in those days they did. But let me read to you some of the stores that were turning away black people. This is just some of them. Now, this is in the South. These are stores that were owned by Jewish people. Riches, many of you are familiar with that. Riches, Loveman, Joseph, and Loeb. And that was based in Birmingham, Alabama. Sanger Brothers, they were based in Dallas. Neiman Marcus, I know many of you have heard that. And L. Hamill Dry Goods Company. They were also based in Mobile, Alabama. All right. That's just a few of them. So during the era of us doing all this protesting at lunch counters and stuff like that, there were numbers of those lunch counters that were owned and operated by Jews who were supporting the Jim Crow narrative. But you don't hear about that, do you? The only time you hear about Jews and civil rights would be, you had a Jewish person that helped Martin Luther King write the Civil Rights Bill. Take that back. That helped Martin Luther King write the I Have a Dream speech. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. As they pushed for the Civil Rights Bill that, by the way, doesn't even mention the word black. But anyway. So that's the other side of it that they don't want to talk about. And see, for me, I don't care how much good you've done. If you've done some bad deeds, you're going to have to give account for that. Because see, the reason why I bring them up a lot is they have set a high standard. You remember how in the last segment, we talked about setting a standard? These people have set a standard. If one of your members offends us, then all of your members have to be re-educated. And you got to remember where we came from. You got to remember our history. You got to do all this stuff. Black folks, we just want to be one big happy family. We just want to be one big happy family. But anyway, it wasn't just in the South, it was also in the North. And I'm very grateful for my mother, sharing all of these stories, because I remember her, again, telling me some of the things she went through, even when she moved to Philadelphia. But here are some examples here. Jewish landlords in Harlem, New York. They engaged in rent gouging and economic exploitation of black tenants, contributing to tensions and rent strikes. And if you think that only happened in the 1920s and 30s, then you better think again, because that is still going on. When you hear the word slumlord, in most cases, they're Jewish people, in most cases. And I'm not just saying that just to say that. You can just look this up. The city of New York put together a list of the worst slumlords in the city, and most of them, all you got to do is look at their last name. And many of those buildings, guess who's living in there? It ain't them. Jewish grocery stores, butchers, and pawnbrokers in Harlem, New York. They practice unfair treatment and racism towards black customers. Jewish landlords in Chicago West Side charge black tenants a 20% color tax premium on rents compared to white tenants, leading to rent strikes. When I tell you, I have no problem in amassing a list, a whole library of all of this stuff. I've done it. I am doing it. I've done it, and I am doing it, of all of these things here. Now, I'm mentioning this because it's funny to sit back. Okay, it's funny to sit back and to watch people go hard after white people. White people, white people, white people, white people, white people, white people. But isn't it something that all of these people that are out here, I'm talking about black folks now, when they're going after white people, they rarely mention these things I'm mentioning to you. Isn't that something? Well, there was a video. Let me see if I can find it. I played a clip of it. I think I downloaded here. Let me see if I can find it for you. This guy, he actually put this, let me see. I played a clip of it. I actually included it in one of a short I did recently. And let me play this clip for you. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. I want you to take a listen to this dude, okay? Just take a listen to him. Here we go.
Shalom. All right, man, so y'all see the title, and I know some of y'all are already mad, hot, angry, all right, ready to throw a shoe at the door phone. But, hey, y'all should already know this, man, all right? If you've been paying attention closely to my videos, y'all should already know that I'm a black man and I'm a Zionist. As crazy as that may sound, it shouldn't be crazy, all right? A lot of us black folks grew up in the church, and we read that Bible. We know that God designated the land of Israel for the Jewish people specifically, all right? And there shouldn't be any type of pushback or, I would say, resistance towards what I'm saying, unless you on, demon time. All right. And on top of that, I don't see y'all out here criticizing Kanye for being a black Nazi or a black Klansman. All right. When we know that the Zionists and the Jewish people had did more for the black community than the Klansmen and the Nazis put together. All right. So
I just can't take anymore. Okay. I hung in there long enough. I said, let me see. Maybe I could play the whole thing, but I can't. Okay. I'm just being honest, being real. But let me just ask you this, though. I can't take it, but is he lying? Is he lying? That's the question. Is he lying? You may not, what he's saying may be a little bit irritating, but is he lying? Let me play this other video for you. It's right here. And this is another guy that's giving us a little bit of history.
Don't let the radicals fool you. Black leaders have always stood on the side of Israel, on the side of Zionism, which is why they pushed back when the United Nations tried to paint Israel as a racist nation in its 1975 resolution, Zionism is Racism. They raised their voices against the UN and founded Black Americans to Support Israel Committee, whose 200 charter members included Coretta Scott King, Arthur Ashe, Ralph Ellison, and Count Basie. Sadly, it wasn't enough. The UN resolution passed. And in 2001, the UN doubled down. They held a conference in Durban, South Africa, and condemned Israel as an apartheid state. The UN exploited the pain of black South Africans who experienced real apartheid to condemn the only nation in the Middle East where all have equal rights. And it's not just the Jews who suffered as a result. The late South African lawyer Olga Mshwe Washington explained the cost of the UN's hypocrisy perfectly when she said, "Africa is now the global eye of the terrorism storm. Slavery is rampant and Nigerian Christians continue to be slaughtered. The attention that should be afforded Africa is focused on demonizing Israel." Her words echo even louder today. I'm Pastor Dumisani Washington. See you next time on We Are Not the Same, How Free Palestine.
Yeah. One day, I'll have my opportunity to confront some of these people. One day, we'll see. Maybe they ain't in the cards for me right now, but one day. Because when I tell you these people, you just don't get it. Because what he left out when he talks about South Africa, I'm glad he brought that up, because South Africa during apartheid, guess which country was standing shoulder to shoulder with P.W. Botha and the white South African government? Guess who was standing next to him when other countries were backing off of them? It was Israel. Did you know that? Did you know that a lot of the equipment that South Africa was using to oppress black people, black South Africans, guess where they got that from? Israel. That's where they got it from. In fact, even today, South African, IDF soldiers out of Israel are still going over to some of these areas in South Africa where these white settlers are and are training them. But you leave that part out. You leave those things out. Then we could talk about the involvement of Israel in these various parts throughout Africa. In Congo, we could talk about that. In Angola, we could talk about that. There's many places out here. This is why people are looking at it. Ain't just that. And what the system is trying to do right now is to get people focused on Islam. Look at what these Muslims are doing. When you hear the top people in the United States government talking about the concerns of Nigeria and look at what these Muslims are doing to these poor Nigerians, when Trump is caring about Nigerians, the place that he called an S-hole, you know something is up. You know what I'm saying? You know something is up. But anyway, so the first guy that I played to you, is he lying? Well, let me answer for you. No, he's not. Because when you go back into our history, and this is something I shared with our, the supporters of this channel. We got, if you want to become a supporter, you see that on on the homepage of this YouTube channel. It's up there and all of that stuff, right? So if you want to do that, you can. But I did a video recently where I was sharing with them how I don't really think the majority of people, and I'm talking black folks now, really understand this thing that is happening now. Someone says something and it sounds ridiculous and crazy, right? But there is truth to that. They said, as Israel goes, so goes America. When you look at the foundation, when you look at United States and how it was built, yes, the United States was built on values of other belief systems and all of that, but the tip of the spear was Christianity. And when you look at Christianity, I don't care how you can paint everybody in the Bible black. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The problem that a lot of black folks trip on is looking at the history of the people in the Bible beyond the Bible. Everything is a scripture. You ask them something about history, well, Deuteronomy chapter such and such. You ask them about something about history, well, Joshua chapter 2 verse. That's your whole history perspective. When you learn about the actual people beyond the Bible, you get a much bigger story. It doesn't matter what color they are at the end of the day. These were not you, right? And so you can believe what you want, but they were not us. They're not. Right? And so, but Christianity, the Bible, is centered on. Don't care if you're a Christian, don't care if you're Hebrew, whatever the belief system is. I have lately, for whatever reason, I've been looking at videos of people who are coming out of Jehovah's Witness. I don't know why. It was just one of those things that I was like, I've been always interested in that. And I've been listening to people who are coming out of it, and it's eerily similar to people coming out of Hebrew stuff. Eerily similar. And being here in Arizona, you got tons of people here who are in what you call it, in Mormonism. You got a lot of Mormons around here. These Mormons run a lot of this state. And listening to them and all of that, and it's been quite interesting. And as I'm listening to these people, I'm finding these same similarities, that ultimately the narratives of these belief systems are all centered around the Bible. And the Bible is primarily focused on one group of people, and that is the Jews. It's Jewish people at the end of the day. In fact, the Savior that is promised and demonstrated, illustrated, whatever, in the Bible himself is a Jewish person. Now, the funny thing is that Orthodox Jews, they don't embrace Jesus as Savior. They don't embrace him as a Mashiach. They don't, Orthodox Jews, religious Jews, they don't embrace him as that. So they don't care about your Jesus, right? But they do have a Mashiach. They do have someone that they are looking forward that's going to come. So as far as they're concerned, the Jesus in the Bible was the Antichrist. That's kind of how they see that, right? He's not the real one. But whatever narrative you choose, if it's biblical based, it is a Judeo-based belief system. So you can be a black person out here and say all you want that the real people were black. That may give you put some extra hairs on your chest. But to the bigger world, what do they see? What do they hear? They hear a narrative that's Judeo-based. And what do I mean by that? They hear a narrative that there is a people that's set apart. There is a people that is chosen by God. And there is a people that is better than everybody else. That's what they hear at the end of the day. See, black folks, we can sit up here all day and say, well, we're the real people, but you don't have any power. See, for example, like IUIC, they can get out here in full force, do all this marching, wear all the same clothes and do all that stuff. They can do that all they want. But where's the power? That's not power. Are you building hospitals? No. Are you building schools? No. Are you solving some of these banking issues? No, you're not doing that. What are you doing? You're showing up in purple shirts and marching. And you got black folks that just fall like, oh, look at all of this. Look at that. You know, well, we got men that come together. It's just something that, and the world is afraid. The world ain't afraid of you. They ain't afraid of you. If 1 million black people actually got together again in March, do you think the banking system is going to be shaking in their boots because of that? Now, of course, it's inspiring to see people come together that all look together and we all acting like we got some sense and we got a singular mind, a purpose and all of that. That's good. That's a good start. But the problem is that we stop at the starting line. We always stop at the starting line. We show up, we put our Sunday best on, but then after that, it's the same thing over and over again. So this particular group, like I said, I just showed you the stores, for example. And so there was this other video that I just played for you. This guy, he talked about this organization that was set up. And as soon as I could find it, it was called, where is it right here? Really quick here. It was called BASIC. It was called the Black Americans to Support Israel Committee, BASIC. And long story short, this was black leaders that were standing shoulder to shoulder with the Zionist agenda. And real quick, I'll just give you some of the names that some of y'all may be familiar with. A. Philip Randolph, Bayard Rustin, Lionel Hampton, as the jazz musician, Tom Bradley, that was the mayor of Los Angeles. Let's see, Shirley Chisholm, William Clay, Barbara Jordan, Charles Rangel, Andrew Young, Coretta Scott King, Martin Luther King Sr., Roy Wilkins, Dorothy Height, Rosa Parks, James Farmer, C.L. Dellums. I'm just going through here. They had clergy. Let me see. I don't know those people. Let's see. Then you had it was across the board. They had in arts. They had Harry Belafonte, Count Basie and his wife, Arthur Ashe, Hank Aaron, Ralph Ellison, Dorothy Maynor, and it was a lot of others too. I think I was trying to pull up the whole list, but yeah. So all of these people are all on code when it comes to how they see Zionism, and that they believe that, you know, the whole Zionist agenda, and they're bought in. And this one guy in that video, the first guy that I played, that he was in the car, and he was talking about how black people, we have been trained on Zionism in the Bible. We were trained on it. We were trained on this whole narrative that these are God's chosen people and they are not to be touched. We are to protect them. Now, of course, not all black people buy into that. I get that. But this narrative is something that many black folks embrace. Rather, if they want to paint all of them black or not, it's irrelevant. But they embrace the narrative that they never wrote. And the narrative is what is the ultimate messaging that's out here. This is why you got so many black folks out here. Again, at the end of the day, it's, you know, like, for example, Hebrew Israelites, they could say all day and all night that these are the fake people, but you got thousands of black Americans that have literally relocated, not only relocated to Israel, but they're also fighting with the IDF. This is where it leads at the end of the day. You understand? So when I sit back and I listen to these individuals, you know, that are on social media that have all this fire and smoke and thunder for white people, it always stands out to me that they don't ever say anything about these people. But we have a lot of examples of what happens when you talk too much about these people, right? Different ones that had to come out, black folks that had to come out and say, well, you know, I didn't mean that. And, you know, Kanye West had to get up there, a billionaire had to get up there and say, well, you know, I got some mental issues and, you know, I'm a little bipolar and all that. He had to lower himself. I want you to understand this. This billionaire black man had to lower himself to the point where he had to get up there and blame mental illness. He had to make himself mentally ill. This sounds like some slavery stuff. In 2025, he had to make himself mentally ill as an excuse to say, well, I said some things I didn't mean to, sir. You know I may be a billionaire and all that, but, you know, I had some bad times and I just don't understand. What you say? What you say? I don't know what you say. What you talking about, Willis? You know, and say, you know, he had to go, you know, act crazy. And then they're like, there now. We understand. Well, you know, the Mashiach, you know, he's always loving and caring. And even for you little poor black people, you know, it's okay because we know that your mind is just above the level of an ape. Oh, you don't. Yeah. You remember the video I did with talking about Maimonides, who's considered the greatest rabbi in Judaism, Maimonides. Yeah, he equated the minds of black people just above the level of an ape. And as much as they want to get rid of that, they don't written too many books about this man. But also recently, their top rabbi, I don't know if he's still alive or not, he recently, some years ago, said the same thing. He repeated what Maimonides said about black people. And yet you got black folks out here, both tall, small, rich or poor, that will still bow their knee to the entire Judeo narrative, that these people are the chosen people and you better go mum with them. So we're going to talk about white people. We're going to go after them, but we ain't going to touch them. We're not going to call out how they in the sporting industry. We can talk about that. How they've taken lead in the sporting industry. We're not going to talk about the when you look at the history of mobs in this country, mobs. You know how in Hollywood, how we always hear about the Italian moms, and anytime people hear about the mob, they always automatically associate it with Italians. That wasn't true. Some of the most deadly and most powerful mobs were not Italian. They were Jewish mobs. They were the most they would, and you want to know why? In your psyche, in your brain, that has never resonated or clicked, because guess who controls the Hollywood system? So those who control the Hollywood system has the power to tell the story. So they shifted everything to the Italians and made the Italians look like they're the mob. But in reality, they were the most, what'd you call it? Vegas wouldn't have been built if it wasn't for the Jewish mobs. There's a sport betting app. I forgot what it's called. It's a huge platform right now, owned by them. So what I'm saying is this. Am I saying that these individuals are the sole root of everything that bad that we're going through as a people? No. But what I am saying, and what I'm challenging black folks to do, is to stop being afraid and tell the whole story, and stop being, and because some people are so afraid that they say, well, you know, way I'm going to handle it is I'm just going to pretend to be like them. Shalom, brother. Shalom, sister. You know, that's your way of not avoid. No, you need to take the mask off and stand on your square, stand on your history. It's just as simple as that. But it takes someone who's willing to do that. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be truthful with yourself. You understand what I'm saying? And our future generations deserve that. We have to tell the truth when it comes to our history. My ancestors, my parents, they deserve that. They told me these stories of stuff that they witnessed when they were going through Jim Crow South. And who were a lot of times the people pushing the buttons that was poking the backs of black folks. We got to start calling this stuff out for what it is. Let me see if I have this final video clip that I want to show you. I thought it was quite revealing. It's been making the rounds here. Let me see if I can find it for you right quick, and then we'll call it the evening here. Let me see if I can find it for you here. That would be under this here. Hopefully I bookmarked it. Oh yeah, this is it right here. Take a listen to this woman. Now, this video has been making the rounds here. This is former Obama speechwriter Sarah Hurwitz. And I want you to take a listen to what she is saying here. It's all coming out, y'all. That's all I can say to you. It is literally all coming out. And like I always tell you, let them tell it.
Suddenly like Jews control Hollywood, right? Because like you made us do that. I don't, it's like, I guess I would just gently push back on the idea that Jews have power in America. I think we have tremendous status. I think we have, we've certainly achieved like tremendous professional and cultural achievement. We certainly have achieved, wealth and like professional success. But I don't necessarily know, we're 2% of the population. So if the majority turned against us, I'm not totally sure what we would do, right? Like I'm just thinking about like power in very kind of practical ways. We definitely have power in Israel, like as a state, right? But I don't necessarily think Israel is like the most powerful state in the world or all powerful. I think it's often kind of deemed the source of all the world's problems, and kind of, whereas like this is a state the size of New Jersey. It's not. Right. I know we think it's very important. I certainly think it's important in the scheme of the world's thing. Like I would probably focus more on like China, Russia, Iran. I think the obsession with Israel is it's a reflection of very old historical ideas about Jews. But I think I certainly think you're right. Like what you're alluding to with like, there is this trend in history to say there is this disgusting thing, and Jews, you have to do this disgusting thing because you can't do anything else. We're not going to let you do anything else. You're going to do this disgusting thing. And then when you do it, we're going to call you disgusting. So, okay, you can't, centuries ago, Jews were not allowed to be in guilds. They were barred from many professions, but they were allowed to do money lending, which was considered disgusting. And so they did. And people said you were disgusting money lenders. And they developed skills in finance. And so they became quite accomplished in.
These people leave so much stuff out. You hear how she's saying we were forced to become money lenders. Okay, you became money lenders, but what was the number one reason why these countries didn't like the fact that they were doing that? It's one word. It's called usury. 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 Look up the word usury. Basically, charging huge amounts of interest and all of that. Same thing that's happening today. But they were forced to do that. Okay.
Finance and banking, and we were kind of said like, oh, you guys are disproportionate in finance and banking, right? Because you made us, right? Decades ago in America, Jews were pushed out of the more kind of classy art forms of like theater and publishing and told, you guys, there's vaudeville, which is kind of like, crass down market. Like that's the only thing Jews can do. So they were like, okay, I guess we'll do that. And it's like, oh, you're disgusting. But then they developed into Hollywood. And
yeah, let's talk about that. So many things left out. Okay, so yeah, you were forced to create Hollywood. And let's see. You were also forced to do blackface. Yeah, Al Jolson. Yeah, one of you. Al Jolson and many others. This whole thing of blackface comedy. Yeah, y'all helped push that a whole lot. So you were forced to portray black people as deviants with extra dark faces, big red lips, big eyes, being made fun of. You were forced to do that. Oh, somebody had to do it. It might as well have been us. But see, it didn't stop there. See, because don't tell me that, oh, this was something way back when. Why are you bringing that up? Because the precedent that you set back then, we're still living in that today. We're still living in that today in 2025. Yeah, but you were forced to do that, right? It's amazing. Amazing.
And suddenly like Jews control Hollywood, right? Because like you made us do that. I don't, it's like there is something to it that's a little bit cruel. This idea that like you've succeeded in this thing that we forced you into, and now we are going to condemn you for that. And that I just feel like, yikes.
For sure.
But look, we're not.
Wow. I mean, do you see? This is the mindset. It's the mindset. We were forced to do this. We were forced to, to run these banks. We were forced to get into usury. We were forced to portray black people like this. We were forced to, to do these experiments on black people. We were forced to do all this stuff because nobody else would do it. We might as well do it. Black folks, listen. What I'm telling you is this. It's time to call this stuff out for what it is. Stop being afraid and start calling this out. And the reason why there's so much fear is because, unfortunately, for many of us, the religion that many of us have been baptized in has trained us to never look that way, to never acknowledge it. But what I am telling you is that whatever your belief system is, if it is rooted in the Bible, you have been trained to never question that narrative. Again, don't fool yourself into thinking just because the original people were black or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's the narrative that matters. It's the narrative. If you think groups like IUIC that are going all over and preaching the gospel and telling these groups, well, we're the real ones, we're the real, the real tribes and all of that, you could tell them that and they can get bought in. What are they getting bought into? The Judeo narrative. Because at the end of the day, the people they're going to keep the narrative, but they're going to look at the people who got the power. You understand? That's how it works. So it's time to not be in fear of with this anymore. We got to start telling it like it is. You can be respectful. You don't have to call any names. You don't have to engage in that, but you must be factual. And when you're talking about these people, you got to be factual, because if you're not factual, they're going to pull you up on that. But you have to stay factual and you got to stand on your square no matter what. All right. That's it. That's all I wanted to share with you. So I hope you guys got something out of this broadcast this evening. I know we covered quite a bit this evening, and but yeah, I really appreciate you guys as always taking the time with me, spending this time with me, this wonderful Friday evening, and that's it. So let's go ahead and end the night. Is this the one? I think this is the version here. All right, this is called "Be the Mountain." This is on our latest album that we have. All right, you guys, thank you again for tuning in. We'll let this play out. If you have any questions for me, go ahead and put it in the chat, okay? We'll just stay to the end of the song.
I've been running with the winds of change, trying to find my name in the rain, but the mountain never moves. It just breathes in the silence, and it knows the truth. Climbers come and go, say they've touched the top, but the mountain smiles, says, child, I never stop. Through all the noise I finally see, the stillness I was chasing is inside of me. Be the mountain, never shaken, never torn. Be the sky above the clouds, reborn. Be the star in the calm of night, always shining, always light. The real you, the real life is a peace that never Watch the ages turn like pages. Watch the heart forget who it was. But that voice inside, unchanged by time, still whispers love, because it was love.
Turn the noise down. Can you hear it? That child within.
Still here, still clean.
You are not your thoughts, you're the space between them.
Be still.
And remember who you are.